Another week, another new streaming device to talk about. Yes, early spring 2021 appears to be a busy time indeed for new hardware. Last week we got our first glimpse of Roku's new streaming gear, and this week it's Apple's turn. In this video, we're sharing our very first look at Apple's new streaming device. Some of the big internal chips might be new, but the name sure sounds familiar. It's called Apple TV 4K, and the company is promising some notable upgrades over the previous Apple TV 4K, which has been with us since 2017. So what's new and what stayed the same? And were there any surprises this week? We'll tackle all that and more today. This is our first look, Apple TV 4K 2021 and Siri Remote. Apple TV 4K specs and features. So yes, the name is staying the same, and when you think about it, that kind of makes sense. 4K TVs are still at the upper end of what most consumers are interested in these days, even with 8K and beyond creeping into the conversation, so keeping the name in line with what many people still consider a high-end spec seems a reasonable move. After all, if they named it something more exotic, that might get people thinking they don't really need it, which would be a little counterproductive. So yes, same name, but definitely some new stuff to talk about, starting with its main processor. We're dealing with the A12 Bionic chip in this new Apple TV model. That's a design we first saw in 2018's iPhone XS and XR line, although it's possible actual chip frequencies might be slightly tweaked here. And yes, the A12 may not represent the absolute bleeding edge of Apple's chip designs anymore, but it's still a potent chip and marks a significant step up from the A10X Fusion found in the 2017 era Apple TV 4K. And to be clear, even that older A10X Fusion chip is more than enough to power traditional streaming services, but of course Apple's been pitching the Apple TV 4K as capable of so much more than just streaming, including the company's growing gaming presence. So that extra horsepower might come in handy depending on how hard you like to push your streaming device. And for what it's worth, the overall dimensions of this new Apple TV 4K look to be more or less identical to the outgoing 2017 model, so we're still looking at a rounded square design that measures 3.9 inches wide and deep, or 98 millimeters, and 1.4 inches or 35 millimeters tall. And it also still weighs less than a pound at 15 ounces or 425 grams. Internally, there's support for Bluetooth 5.0 and Wi-Fi 6 with MIMO, or MIMO, depending on how you pronounce that. On the back, we get some familiar ports, including the power connector and gigabit Ethernet. And the HDMI connection might look the same, but Apple's upgraded it to the new HDMI 2.1 standard instead of the older 2.0A spec. That increases potential bandwidth from 18 gigabits per second to 48 gigabits per second, and that opens the door for content running at higher frame rates like 120 frames per second at 4K, although Apple didn't actually mention 120 frames per second in its announcement this week. And it is worth pointing out that HDMI 2.1 can indeed be connected to displays that only support older standards like 2.0A, so you don't have to connect this new Apple TV 4K to a TV with HDMI 2.1 ports on board. And we've seen this fancy new HDMI port on the latest gaming consoles from both Microsoft and Sony, and it's interesting to see such a forward-looking connection on a streaming-first device. And it's a bit unclear at the moment what the new standard will actually be used for on this new device, but we'll definitely keep an eye out. For now, you'll be just fine if you have a non-HDMI 2.1 TV or display. And no, there's no HDMI cable supplied, so you'll have to grab one for yourself. And if you do want to take full advantage of HDMI 2.1, you'll want to be on the lookout for ones marked ultra high speed. Just a heads up for you early adopters out there. Oh, and there's one more interesting feature to touch on real quick. Apple's offering a color calibration tool that uses the sensors on an iPhone to adjust color balance in whatever room your Apple TV is located. You essentially hold your phone up to face your TV, and the two devices work together to calculate the proper color balance for the current environment. Apple says that should be a lot easier than fiddling with individual TV settings, and we're looking forward to trying it out for ourselves once we get some hardware in-house to test, so stay tuned. The new Siri Remote. Of course, for every request for an updated Apple TV over the past few years, there have probably been just as many, if not more, pleas for an improved remote control. And so now we have the new Siri Remote, and Apple says its new input device enables more precise and comfortable navigation. There's a circular directional pad on the upper half that's touch sensitive, so you can swipe in different directions. The outer ring is also touch enabled, and you can use a circular swipe for jog controls to more precisely control where you want to start playback on a movie or TV show. And you also get TV controls including power, volume, and mute. On the side, there's a dedicated Siri button if you want to use your voice to control things. It's also got Bluetooth 5.0 on board, and you can control your TV or receiver via HDMI CEC or infrared. And you can also charge its internal battery via a lightning connection. Beyond all that, Apple says its new Siri Remote features a one-piece aluminum design that's supposed to be more comfortable to hold and use, which is one area where customers have been hoping for some improvement. Of course, we'll have to wait until we get our own hands on the device and its new remote to judge for ourselves, but call us cautiously optimistic for now. Pricing and availability. So if all that sounds interesting to you, here's what we currently know about Apple TV 4K pricing and availability. There are two models incoming, one with 32 gigabytes of onboard storage and another with 64 gigabytes. That 32 gigabyte version will retail for $179, while the 64 gig option bumps the price up to $199. And that price gets you the new Apple TV 4K, the new Siri Remote, a power cord, and a lightning cable to charge your remote. And again, there's no HDMI cable in this package. And you can place an order for either option starting on April 30th, and the company expects devices to ship sometime in the second half of May. And if you really just want that updated Siri Remote, you can opt to pick that up as a standalone purchase as well. The new Siri Remote is expected to retail for $59 on its own, and it's compatible with the previous Apple TV 4K and the Apple TV HD. So if you're still rocking those older options and just want to upgrade your input device, you have that option as well. And there's one more bundle to talk about here. A 32 gigabyte Apple TV HD will be bundled with the new Siri Remote at $149, and that's also set to ship in the second part of May, with orders starting again on April 30th. So overall, if you're looking to dive into Apple's streaming hardware ecosystem, your choices will start at $149 for the non-4K Apple TV HD, or you can jump up to the brand new Apple TV 4K starting at $179. Wrapping it all up. So there you go, that about sums up Apple's latest announcements on Apple TV. And yes, we've been waiting for quite a while to finally see what the company has planned for its streaming device platform. And of course, just because we officially have a new Apple TV 4K to look forward to, that doesn't mean we'll stop tracking all the streaming device rumors that are still floating around out there. There are still murmurs of a multifunction device that combines Apple TV streaming with HomePod speaker tech. That might also include group FaceTime chats via a connected TV. So yes, plenty more to keep our eye on for the future. In the here and now, however, be sure to let us know what you think of Apple's latest hardware in the comment section down below. Do you think the company went far enough with its new model? What new hardware specs or features were you hoping for? And what about that new Siri Remote? For those of you who have not been fans of past Apple TV remotes, are you optimistic about this new input device? Be sure to let us know in the comment section down below. And of course, thank you all so much for tuning in this week. And if you haven't done so already, please do consider clicking the like button down below and maybe even following Cord Cutters News. That would enable us to publish even more video content in the future. For now though, my name is Philip Palermo. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you all next week. Take care.